One of the largest environmental cleanup projects in the United States is nearing completion in upstate New York this year. It's the PCB Dredging project, being performed by GE on 40 miles of the Hudson River north of Albany, and it's just one of the environmental projects GE is conducting to improve conditions in the Hudson River. When the sixth and final year of dredging begins in May, crews will dredge 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, for 6 months of the year. GE is conducting and paying for the project under the supervision of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Senior EPA officials have commended GE's performance as a national model and commended GE's work as extraordinary. The Upper Hudson is a fast-flowing river. Homes line the shore, and recreational activity continues in the river alongside the 80 or so vessels needed for dredging. The weather changes on a moment's notice, so dredging poses unprecedented engineering and logistical challenges every single day. To do the work, GE assembled a world-class team of environmental engineers and dredging experts to be sure the dredging is performed as safely and effectively as possible, all the while adhering to strict standards set by the EPA and minimizing the impact on the people who live along the river. In addition to its work on the river itself, GE is also conducting cleanups of the 2 manufacturing plants where PCBs once were used in electrical equipment. The goal of these major projects has been to ensure that PCBs on and near the plant sites don't reach the river. The New York Department of Environmental Conservation has overseen all of GE's work on land and has characterized it as tremendous. The plant sites are no longer a significant source of PCBs to the river. On its Hudson Falls plant site, GE drilled nearly 300 wells to monitor and capture PCBs in the bedrock. To install the wells, GE brought in air support, a large helicopter to lift a 5,000-pound drill rig into place on the dried-out riverbed. Perhaps the most innovative approach were tunnels GE built under the river itself. The tunnels are about the size of a railroad car, and they are equipped with collection devices to capture the minute amount of PCBs reaching the Hudson from below. To build the tunnels, a vertical shaft was created 220 feet deep and 24 feet in diameter, the rock being broken up with targeted, controlled blasts. Extending from the shaft, GE installed 2 horizontal tunnels, 1,000 feet in length, 80 feet below the river. Water-containing PCBs is drained out of the bedrock and pumped to a water treatment facility built on the property to treat PCBs. This year, GE plans to relocate the water treatment plant to a new 1-story building to be constructed next to the vertical shaft. This will enable GE to upgrade the system and dismantle the older building where the plant is currently situated. At its Fort Edward plant, GE installed and maintains a network of underground wells that collect groundwater for treatment. The system has shrunk a plume of contaminated groundwater by 50%. Surface soils containing PCBs have been removed, as has a former discharge pipe on the banks of the Hudson. Even when GE's work on the dredging project is completed, its work on the Hudson will continue. The focus now turns to the Hudson River floodplain, 80 miles of low-lying shoreline on the banks of the river from Fort Edward to Troy, New York. In partnership with EPA, GE is performing a comprehensive assessment of these areas that may flood during high water events such as spring runoff. GE is evaluating the extent of PCBs in the floodplain and evaluating options for future remedial activities. Where higher PCB levels have been identified in areas being used by the public, GE installed clean soil to prevent contact with PCBs. All of GE's work is approved and supervised by EPA. GE's work is making a difference in the Upper Hudson. Over the last 40 years, GE has conducted comprehensive, systematic, and effective environmental cleanups with the oversight and approval of federal and state regulatory agencies. Our work is not done, but day in, day out, progress is being made as GE continues to meet all of its environmental commitments.